Swami Vivekananda and his idea of nationalism. Swami Vivekananda is considered as one of the prophets of Hindu nationalism. Why? Because he is known for reviving the old and traditional values of Hindu religion across the world. In 1893, at the Parliament of Religion. So, Indian nationalism, because he tried to awaken the Indian people who were lying in deep slumber. He wanted to see the emergence of a strong, self-confident India, which would bring the message of the Vedanta to the world. He maintained that Indians should be proud of their history, their culture, their religion, and should try their level best to reform them. So he wanted to reform. In the sense, he is open to reform, rather. He is open to reform. He is open to change. That's what makes him even today relevant. So reform them in the light of the demands of the time. Vivekananda was highly critical of the British rule in India because he held that due to their rule, the Indians lost their confidence. The famines engulfed the land. The farmers, the artisans were reduced to poverty and penury. The Britishers were exploiting Indians in all the spheres of economic activities. They had let loose the reign of terror and struck fear in the minds of the people. Due to the exploitative economic policies of the Britishers, the Indian could not develop their natural resources. Her productive potential was sapped. It was imperative that Indians should know the evil effects of the British rule. This is what makes him very, very different from Raja Ram Mohan Roy, from many other social reformers who believed that the British rule was a boon in disguise. This is what makes him different. Vivekananda was of the opinion that the national regeneration of India would begin when the people became fearless. When the people will become fearless, then only the national regeneration of India can be possible. He started demanding their rights. The people will start demanding their rights. So in other words, when Vivekananda is of the opinion that the national regeneration of India is only possible when the people will become fearless, when the people will believe that the demands for their rights is a legible one. He also asked the Indians to develop a solidarity, the oneness of the spirit by the eradication of the social levels, the superstition, the caste arrogance. He was of the opinion that the caste system divided the Indian society into classes. So he's of the belief that caste leads to class. This is very crucial. And it created a feeling of inferiority and superiority amongst the people. He held that though there was a variety of races, language, religion, and cultures in India, there existed a common ground between Indian people. There was a common religious tradition which could be dependent upon build the national spirit. So he was looking for a national spirit beyond all these discriminations, beyond all these differences. It was not necessarily a particular religion that needs to be at the hegemonistic place, but all the religions would help us to develop the national integration. So this is something which makes the notion of positive secularism. For the Indians, religion was a unifying force, as the spirituality was blood in the life of Indians. All the differences melted in it. The Indians preserved their faith in the most difficult conditions. It is the duty of the educated Indians. It is the duty of the educated Indians. Duty is in the sense, it's a moral duty. It's a moral duty of the educated Indians to make its knowledge available to the people in their oneness and solidarity. He exhorted Indians not to get involved in the divisive issues of race, language, culture, etc. Instead, imbibe the spirit of unity. He said that the Hindus should not blame Muslims. For their numerous invasions, because the Muslim conquest came as a salvation to the downtrodden masses of India. 1/5 of India did not become Muslim because of sword, but because of their egalitarian messages. This is very, very crucial. Therefore, the national unity could not be fostered by caste conflict, but it would be secured by raising the lower to the level of a higher classes, and not by bringing the upper classes to the lower classes. We don't have to take them down. We just have to bring the lower class to the upper section. This upper movement of mobility, the mobility should be towards the upper side. That's the logic. India should be one mind. India should be of one mind and of one resolve. Hence, we must revive the whole of India. India must conquer the world, not by the help of a gun, but the help of a spirituality. For the growth of national spirit in India, independence of mind was necessary. India should expose herself to the outside world, but she should not get scared of anyone, because her freedom would come through heroism and bravery. India should be proud of their country and declare that all Indians, despite their different caste, religion, are brothers. Thus, in Vivekananda's theory of nationalism, there were four important components. Number one, unity and oneness. Number two, necessary to remove caste differences. Three, teachings of different religion, and India consisted of all religion. Four, national spirit in India could be developed by young people. By young people. Now we will talk about Vivekananda's view on democracy. Something which is very, very essential these days because democracy has become very costly. Very few can afford it. Vivekananda was a great advocate of democracy. He wanted to awaken the young. He wanted to awake the young people to establish a free and democratic government in India. So he wanted the youth, he wanted the young people to establish a free and democratic government in India. For him, the principle of liberty was important because he held that there could not be the growth of society as well as that an individual without liberty. So without liberty, neither the individual will grow nor the society at large will grow. All right. So he said that everyone should have liberty of thought, discussion, food, marriage, dress. What we have today is something that you cannot eat this, you cannot wear these clothes, you cannot marry a particular person. So these are the things that we are not following. But according to the notion of democracy and liberty of Vivekananda, we are just doing something opposite. He wanted to democratize Indian society by abolishing the caste privileges, by opposing the cunningness of the priest and the social tyranny. Vivekananda was a supporter of equality of men, equality of all men, and he pleaded for the abolition of caste and class privileges. He thought that the spirit of equality in India could be inculcated through the spread of knowledge and education. So with knowledge and education, the differences among people will get blurred. The caste system was a hindrance to the development of India into a strong nation. And what we do is exactly we promote caste politics. We promote caste politics because that will help us to gain some percentage of vote. So therefore our country is not becoming or rather not using its ultimate potential. He held that in a democracy, power rested with the people. He was of the view that for the democratization of the country, the Western thinkers tried to perfect the political and social order, but the Eastern thinkers laid more stress on perfection of individual. For sound social and political institutions were ultimately rooted in the goodness of individuals. This is something extremely important, that something should come within us. It should come from us. It's not an external thing. Religious tolerance was a crucial aspect for the growth of democracy, because that alone could promote the cause of liberty, equality, and fraternity. So tolerance is something that we lack today, which was, according to Vivekananda, is a prerequisite for the growth of democracy. No wonder what we witnessed. Now we will discuss about this Vivekananda view on social change. Vivekananda wanted an overall development of India, and eradication of poverty, and degeneration of the people. He was an opponent of aristocracy and feudalism. He pleaded for bringing the gap between the rich and the poor. This is just the opposite of what we witnessed in the World Inequality Index 2021. For which purpose? For eradicating the gap between the rich and the poor, he wanted to awaken the masses of the country. He was of the view that in future, the Shudras who were toiling hard would become the rulers of the country. The socialist and anarchist movement in the Western countries indicated this. Vivekananda's theory of social change was based on the Indian concept of history. It was a theory of political cycle, that visualized periodic and circular change in the regimes of the basis of law of the change, with the help of historical evidences from the history of Greece, Rome, and India. All the societies which have developed division of labor had four classes: Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. According to Swami Vivekananda, on the basis of historical example, the law of nature, each of these class in every society governed the country one after the another in succession. Very crucial. Vivekananda was of the opinion that the first stage of human development in almost all the ancient civilization of the world, the power was in the hands of the Brahmin or a priest. He ruled with the help of his magic. His power was overthrown by the Kshatriyas or the warriors, who formed the monarchic or oligarchic governments. But the power of this class was overthrown by the Vaishyas or the traders. In most of the modern nations, such as England, the power controlling the society was in the hands of the Vaishyas. They became powerful only in the 18th and 19th century. Many a kingly crown had to kiss the ground due to the growing power of the commercial classes. Now you can see how the government of India and its relation with the big shot private companies have been developing. In fact, the influence of the big corporations over the government of India policies. Now, the Vaishyas had enormous power in their hands. Therefore, the conquest of India was not the conquest of Christianity, but it was the conquest of the commercial class, whose flag was a factory chimney, whose warriors were the merchants, and whose battlefields were the marketplace of the world. According to Vivekananda, as per the law of nature, wherever there was an awakening of a new and stronger life, there it tried to conquer and take the place of the old and decay. Nature favored the dying of the unit. Nature favored the dying of the unfit and the survival of the fittest. The power of the Kshatriya were brought down because of the dictatorship. He maintained that the real power of the society rested with the Shudras, who produced wealth with the help of their own labor. But they were treated harshly by the ruling classes. The Shudras would become great not by acquiring the qualities of Brahmins, Kshatriyas, or Vaishyas, but by retaining their own qualities as producers of wealth. In the recent past, the Western world has already seen that the ranks of the Shudras were growing, and with the increase of their awakening, they would rather capture the power. The last phase of the social change was the victory of the Shudras. This is going to be the last phase of the social change, and then it will again get back to its own circular path. And the capture of political power by them. The rise of the socialist and anarchist movement in Europe sustained this, in fact, proved this. Thus, the political theory of Vivekananda was the awakening, and freedom of India was synchronized with the rise of Shudras and workers and peasants to the political power. He was a supporter of nationalism and provided the basis of New Vedanta. He used religion and the culture for the cause of nationalism.